In the 1910s, a brand new technology created a completely new kind of celebrity. For the first time in human history, a single person's performance could be seen by a massive global audience simultaneously. Out of this explosion of early cinema emerged one distinct silhouette: a tight coat, baggy pants, an oversized pair of shoes, and a bowler hat. This specific character made Charlie Chaplin the most widely recognized human being on Earth. Audiences packed into theaters and howled at his slapstick routines, but they rarely realized exactly what they were laughing at. The pratfalls and physical gags function as a mirror, reflecting the darkest corners of Victorian society back at the audience. To find the real origin of the comedy, you have to leave the glamour of early Hollywood and walk into the slums of 1890s London. Here, you don't find a whimsical clown. You find a Dickensian nightmare of extreme poverty, hunger, and institutional abuse. To understand the art, we have to unearth the trauma that forged the artist. When Chaplin was 7 years old, his family's destitution hit a breaking point. Out of options, they were forced into the Lambeth workhouse. Stepping through those doors meant surrendering their own clothes, their autonomy, and their basic human dignity. The deepest wound from this period was institutional separation. The workhouse system actively dismantled destitute families. Charlie was separated from his mother, Hannah. The crushing weight of their poverty ultimately broke her health, and she was committed to a mental asylum. Inside the children's wards, the humiliations were highly physical. Outbreaks of ringworm were rampant. The treatment required shaving the children's heads completely and painting their scalps with iodine, stripping away any lingering sense of personal identity. Above them loomed the constant threat of physical violence. Former Navy men ran the wards, administering brutal canings for minor infractions. Boys would routinely faint from the pain and have to be carried away to recover. Surviving this absolute loss of control left a permanent mark. Chaplin desperately needed a way to reclaim power over his environment. He found it by observing the people around him and perfectly mimicking their behavior. Chaplin inherited a gift for mimicry from his mother, who had been a music hall performer. He used pantomime first to survive the streets, and eventually to land a vaudeville gig. That touring act became his ticket out of London, carrying him all the way to America. In 1913, he arrived at Mack Sennett's Keystone Studios. The environment was a massive culture clash. Chaplin was used to months of careful theatrical rehearsal, but Keystone was a frantic, chaotic factory churning out silent films at breakneck speed. Chaplin spontaneously threw together a series of contradictions. A coat too tight, pants too baggy, a hat too small, and shoes vastly oversized. The mismatched aesthetic functioned as a physical map of the London slums, performing high society dignity while society actively crushed him. With the character established, Chaplin replaced the frantic slapstick pace with moments of genuine vulnerability, pathos, forcing audiences to feel empathy alongside the humor. The tramp was a calculated character. By demanding empathy for a vagrant, Chaplin reclaimed the exact dignity that the Victorian workhouses had stripped away from him. That calculation paid off. The impoverished boy from Lambeth achieved unrivaled wealth, secured complete creative control over his films, and moved into a sprawling Beverly Hills mansion. With this newfound power, he resolved his deepest childhood wound. He rescued his mother from the British asylum system, brought her to a seaside house in California, and hired round-the-clock nurses to care for her for the rest of her life. Even surrounded by Hollywood luxury, Chaplin retained his working-class consciousness. He turned his globally recognized character into a direct critique of the systems that manufacture and perpetuate poverty. This photograph shows the grueling reality of early industrial assembly lines. In his 1936 film, Modern Times, Chaplin turned the struggle between factory owners and laborers into a visual nightmare. By showing a man literally caught in the gears of a machine, he gave a face to the alienation of the working class, a core tenet of what sociologists call conflict theory. His social crusades escalated rapidly from there. In 1940, he risked his entire empire to mock fascism in The Great Dictator, openly parodying Adolf Hitler. It was a choice that drew the intense, decades-long scrutiny of the FBI. Charlie Chaplin alchemized the deepest societal neglect into enduring art. the tramp evolved from a comedian into a timeless symbol of working-class survival.